Chapter 6 Colonialism and the City. Colonialism and the City. In this chapter, we are going to discuss the story of an imperial capital. How was the capital built? What happened to the capital during the imperial rule? Now, moving on into the details. What happened to the cities? We have discussed in the previous lessons. What happened across the countryside? The Britishers have entered into the villages. They have divided the entire village lands into Zamindar's control. They have followed certain methods for tax collection, like the permanent settlements, the Raitwari system, the Mahalwari systems. Well, ultimately all the systems have failed. They could not get much profit from the countryside. Then parallelly, during this period, what happened in the cities? If we talk about the cities, we would be very clear about which city we are talking. The development of each city has its own reasons and its own drawbacks. For example, if I take a city like Madurai, where it is a temple town, the development of Madurai, the temple town, reasons would be different to that of a city like Dhaka, where the Britishers established the manufacturing units here. Due to the establishment of the manufacturing units, the people started to migrate towards that region where the units are established in search of opportunities. Then they started to settle on nearby places, and then the city got emerged like this. So people migrated due to the manufacturing unit established in Dhaka, availability of the jobs in Dhaka. But when it comes to Madurai, temple town, many of the people used to come and visit the temple town. As many of the people are coming here, the basic facilities providing for them. So many stalls might have been come up. Many skilled people might have been staying there during the construction of the temple town or the temples in the town. And as the time passed on, these people started to establish hotels or resting places for them. And like this, the commercial activity has increased across the temple region and the town emerged like that. So, the reasons for the emergence of the temple town are clearly different when come to the reasons of establishing an industrial town here. So, like this, it starts varying. Now, coming to western side, the European countries, towns and cities got emerged because of industrialization, which happened from 1718 to 1820, where many industries got established and people moved close to that areas and these regions became more crowded. In the late 19th century, we have the cities which got emerged in the western side, emerging as the capital cities or the important towns of trade due to industrialization. But in India, we have the new towns coming up as the Presidency Cities. What are the Presidency Cities? The cities which are used for the administrative purpose, the cities which are established and through which the administration is run across in that particular state is known as Presidency City. Like in simple terms, we can call them as capital cities. Like that, we have the emergence of Bombay, Bengal and Madras. For different provinces, they became the Presidency Cities. During this establishment of the Presidency Cities, we can now focus our attention towards the older towns of our country. The older towns of our country are Machilipatnam, Surat and Seringapatnam. Machilipatnam is now the headquarters of Krishna district, which is very closely connected with Vijayawada, just across 50 to 70 kilometers away from Vijayawada's mainland. Now, Machilipatnam, Surat and Seringapatnam were initial points where the Britishers established their trade points or settlements, did their trade. From Machilipatnam, they used to do the trading, exports and imports. Through Surat port, they used to do the trading. And Seringapatnam, down in the Karnataka region also, they used to do trading here. But as the emergence of the new presidency cities here, Bombay, Bengal and Madras, the people started to shift from Machilipatnam, Surat and Seringamapatnam towards the towns which got emerged as new cities, that is Bombay, Bengal and Madras, due to various reasons. One, due to get the convenient places for them. Second, they may get some administrative opportunities for them to work in the administrative offices. So in search of these jobs or these situations, people start to migrate from many villages to these places. And this led to the de-urbanization of the cities Machilipatnam, Surat and Seringamapatnam, and urbanization of the cities of Bombay, Bengal and Madras. What is urbanization and what is de-urbanization? Urbanization, people move from villages to towns, from rural areas to urban areas. With this, the urban areas get more populated than the rural areas. So getting more populated from the rural areas means the migration of the people from the urban areas to the rural areas is not at all happening anywhere. People migrate from rural areas to urban areas. When people are migrating from rural areas to urban areas, that is called urbanization. When people are migrating from urban area, the town where it got urbanized, from here if they are moving to some other place, not to the village back, people moving from this particular city or town to the newly emerged cities, like for example from Machilipatnam to Madras, then this urbanized Machilipatnam is now getting de-urbanized. Now people are moving from here, they are going to Madras. People are moving from Seringamapatnam going to Bengal or Bombay. So people are moving from Surat going to Bombay. So the urbanized places still now are Machilipatnam, Surat and Seringamapatnam. But now as the situation is changing, people started to migrate from these places which are already urbanized. From here they are moving to other places. So again we cannot call it as urbanization. Once people are moving from rural areas to urban areas, we can call it as urbanization. But now people are moving from urbanized places only to another places. This is called de-urbanization. So de-urbanization of the cities of Machilipatnam, Surat and Seringamapatnam happened during the early 19th century because of the establishment of the presidency cities like Bombay, Bengal and Madras. So now we will now study how was Delhi before 1911 and afterwards how the city got transformed. Earlier, do you know that the city of Delhi was a very dusty region before the starting the capital of the new Imperial capital building in 1912. So what happened to Delhi prior to this? How was the glory of Delhi earlier? We all know in the past, many rulers ruled Delhi as their capital. Delhi acted as a capital for nearly 1000 years. Why did the capital for 1000 years turn into a dusty region? And why it became again the most important place afterwards? What are the consequences before and after the building of the capital? Let's check it now. So that's what we are going to discuss in this lesson, that is the story of an imperial capital. So building of the city Delhi again, let's find out. Let us now move on into the details of the story of the imperial capital. How was the imperial capital built? So for this we need to look at the history of Delhi. How many Delhis before New Delhi? What a funny question it is. How many Delhis before New Delhi? It's not a funny question. It is exactly the apt question. There are so many cities which were considered as the capital cities of various kings. 1000 years the city served as a capital for many dynasties. So each dynasty used to select a particular region for them to be their city, and like this it acted as 14 small capital cities. We also can find 60 miles away from the river Jammu region, you can get a small city there. During the centuries of 12th to 17th, we have the grand city of New Delhi being built. That was Shahjahanabad, built by Shah Jahan, which was laid in 1939, where today what we are talking about, the Red Fort, from where the Republic Day parades, the Indian Independence Day, the Prime Minister addresses the nation. All these are organized even today, was built by Shah Jahan in 1639, what we call it as Lal Killa or Red Fort. The entire construction of the palace was built with the red sandstone. One more wonder of this is that the city, the fort palace and the city are interlinked here. We have palace, and in the palace we have nearly 14 gates which merge the city with the palace. Here you find a walled city where there are 14 gates opening for the people to come into the palace as well as to go out, and we have the city there. There are two main streets. There are many main streets. Two famous main streets among them are Chandni Chowk and Faiz Bazaar. Chandni Chowk and the Faiz Bazaar are the two important streets which are largely used by the royal possessions to move out and to come in. Other than this, we also had one of the most historical prominent masjid in India, Jama Masjid. This Jama Masjid was the largest and the grandest till that date. It was also the tallest building ever built till that date of 1639 by Shah Jahan. Now moving on, Shahjahanabad was also a Sufi religious center. It was completely dominated by the Sufi culture. So we have many dargahs. What is a dargah? A tomb of a religious guru of Sufi. So we have many tombs, dargahs, we have many khankas, we have many idkas, kuldisak, all these things. Sufi culture, where in the Sufi culture we have dargahs, the tombs of the Sufis, gurus. Then we have khankas, the rest place. When the Sufis are traveling from one place to another place, they used to rest in the khankas. And we have the idkas, the prayer places, a large prayer place where they used to do their prayers. And we also have kuldisak, where the dead end streets, from there you don't have any opening to the streets. So streets are well planned. And moving on to the comment made by Mir Taki. Mir Taki told that the city of Delhi looks like, I am referring to an album which is painted by a very famous painter, which means that the city contains a very beautiful constructions which are marvelous and splendid. So these marvelous and splendid constructions are extraordinary according to that age people. So we have to observe here not only the constructions which happened here, the Huellas and the mansions are intermixed with the houses of the poor people. There was a lot of gap between the rich and the poor. Only few communities or few people are enjoying the royal prestige here. Few people are having the Sufi culture. Few people only are staying in Huellas and the mansions. The rest are poor people. So there is a clear division of the rich and the poor here. And the Delhis, many Delhis were there before we got the New Delhi. It acted as a capital for nearly here and there some gaps in the middle for a stretch of 1000 years. 14 small cities were there in Delhi which acted as a capitals for 14 different dynasties, 14 different kings, it would be right then. From 12th to 17th century, nearly 500 years, the city has seen its zenith, the utmost level of development. One example was Shahjahanabad, which was built in 1639 by Shah Jahan, that is the Lal Killa. The fort palace and the city was interspersed, where we have the walled city with 14 gates, and famous among the gates we have the two important streets running through them, Chandni Chowk and the Faiz Bazaar, which were used by the royal passages to pass on, royal family members to move in and move out. Along with this, we also have the construction of Jama Masjid during this period, which is the largest and the grandest and even the tallest till that point of time. And let's move on to the details of what was the dominant culture during that period in Delhi. It was the Sufi culture. So it had dargahs, khanqahs, eidgahs and cul-de-sac. Dargah, the tomb of the religious guru of a Sufi. Khanqahs, the rest place for the Sufis when they travel from one region to the other regions. We have eidgahs, the prayer places where they used to gather and do the prayers or discuss about the concepts. And we also have the dead end streets, cul-de-sac. All these are described marvelously by Mir Taqi. He commented rightly saying that when I am wandering in the streets of Delhi, the New Delhi, I feel that I am referring to an album which is painted by a famous painter. So the constructions were splendid and marvelous and colorful, because you can see the red sandstone Lal Killa being built during that period, the Red Fort, which is an official place today for us to host the flag. So all these things give us clarity how the old city was there. Now, how did the new city come in? From 1639, we'll find our journey ahead towards 1912. The story of the imperial capital. Now let us see the making of New Delhi. It was around 1803, the British versus Marathas, a war happened. Till the time, the Delhi was under the control of the Marathas. Once the Britishers defeated the Marathas, the dream of the Marathas to control the entire kingdom from Delhi ended up there. So the Britishers became the real masters of controlling Delhi. And now, the Mughal emperor's residence. Though the Britishers defeated the Marathas, they don't want to make Delhi as their capital, because they had their capital already, the Calcutta region. They want to maintain Calcutta only as their capital, and they have given the chance for the Mughal emperor to stay in the Mughal complex till 1911. Still he was demolished from there and dismantled from there. So the demolishing passed. The Delhi was widely divided between the black areas and the white areas. The black areas are the areas which are very dusty, and most of the Indians used to stay here. While it comes to the white areas, the wealthy Indians, the Britishers, used to stay here, who got tuned to the Urdu festivals and the Persian culture, and they started to follow and enjoy the local festivals, even the Britishers. The establishment of Delhi College in 1792 made a chance for the development of sciences and humanities, and the period from 1830 to 1857 is considered as the Delhi Renaissance. Why is it known as the Delhi Renaissance period? What is Renaissance? Renaissance is nothing but when there is a great creativity of art and activity going on, then we consider that period as a great Renaissance period. So, in Delhi from 1813 to 1857, there has been a great chance for art and creativity. So, most of the historians call this period as Delhi Renaissance period. Now, in 1857, when Bahadur Shah Jafar took up the leadership of the revolt and blessed the rebellion soldiers, initiated all the other Indian kingdoms to fight against the Britishers, and Britishers were completely crushed away in many parts, in Meerut, in Delhi, in Bengal, in many other regions. So, the Britishers want to regain back their control, and they started to occupy by getting reinforcements from the English people using the modern techniques, and they started to kill the Indian soldiers and establish their control over the lost regions again. So they want to regain back their kingdoms again. So Ghalib, a famous poet, describes that how did the Britishers attack the people in Delhi. They are like the angry lions who attacked and killed the helpless. ruined them, destroyed them, poured them out of the city through the walls, and created the barracks for their soldiers to live there. Here, they dismantled the court, they closed the gardens, they built the barracks for their troops to stay there, to station there. So this was the situation from 1833 to 1859. The Delhi, which has witnessed the great emperor's residence here, the construction of the Shah Jahanabad by Shah Jahan, we have seen the rising up of Red Fort, where the Lal Killa built with the red sandstone, and later the city was divided between the Indians itself, black areas, white areas. The British also started to stay with the wealthy Indians in the white areas which are dust free. As times passed on, the establishment of Delhi College in 1792, it has given a boom for the Urdu language to spread. The art, activity, science, humanities started to spread, and this is the time when 1813 to 1857 a great creativity has come up in Delhi. So many of the historians call this as Delhi Renaissance. And moving on to 1857, the rebellion took place. In the previous chapter, we discussed in detail how did the rebellion spread over, how did the soldiers took the help and persisted the Bahadur Shah Jafar, the Mughal emperor, to take an initiative and be the alternative leader and emerge as a national rebellion leader of the nation. So with that revolt, the Britishers are very unhappy because they are crushed off in many of the places. So they want to regain back the control. Ghalib describes this attack by the English people on the Indians as the angry lions attacking them and killed the helpless, poured them out of the city. They dismantled the court, closed the gardens, built the barracks for the soldiers. So what happened next? British want to destroy the past of the Delhis. What is the past of Delhi? The great Mughal rule. The people should forget this. The British want to make people to think only about them. They want to forget about that. So they want to change the history of Delhi. Is it possible? Yes. So for that reason, they started to clear the gardens which are in front of the Mughal Red Fort. The pavilions and the mosques were crushed off and cleared because for security reasons, they want clear grounds. They want to create a new drawn city other than the one which was earlier ruled by the Britishers. And Zinnat Ali Masjid, which was a famous masjid, was converted into bakery. There was a strong step taken against the Muslims because when we look at the 1857 revolt, we have Bahadur Shah Jafar emerging as a new rebellious leader of the entire nation. So they are very particular that no other Muslim leader would dare to fight or rebel against the Britishers. So they want to crush off and eliminate all the Muslims from the country. So here when they were destroying the gardens, the pavilions and the mosques, they never touched any temple because they knew that in India there are many Hindus. Once you touch the sentiments of the Hindus, the crowd is very large. So another massive rebellion can take place. So they never touched the temples. Here the temples were left intact. Around this we also have temples, but the temples were left intact. And no worship was allowed in Jama Masjid for nearly 5 years of term. And as the time passed on, in 1870, the Britishers have broken down the western walls of the city and expanded the city beyond that and built railways for them. The city was demolished. They want to demolish the city. The canals were filled up for various security reasons because the Britishers want to eliminate the entire Muslims from the Delhi region. And the Delhi College, which was converted into a school, and finally it was shut down in 1877. So situations changed like this. Delhi, once the most powerful center during the Mughal rule, was captured by the Britishers. The Britishers want to redraw the history of Delhi. So they want to destroy the past glorious history of Delhi. So they want to change it. The gardens, the pavilions, the mosques were cleared. Clear ground has been maintained for security reasons. Later, masjids were not allowed to do worship. Like for example, Jannat al Masjid was converted into a bakery. Jama Masjid was shut down for 5 years. No worship services are allowed. And in 1870, Western Wall broke down and they have built railways and expanded the city here. And the city was completely got demolished. We have canals been filled up. Delhi College has been shut down. So what the Britishers want to do now? Why are they changing the structures of Delhi? Why are they expanding the city so much? Why are they destroying the city like this? What was their intention? Planning a new capital. The planning of the new capital was started by the Britishers. Why do you think till 1857 the Britishers never saw it interesting to move their capital to Delhi? But after the 1857 revolt, they decided that we have to capture the city of Delhi. They captured it and they started to organize their functions in Delhi. Like, it is a symbolic importance because when the rebellion took place, it was headed by the Mughal emperor. So people started to believe that still the Mughal emperor can retain his position. So we need to recapture that one. They recaptured it. In 1877, the Viceroy Lytton has organized a darbar where Queen Victoria has been declared as an empress of our country, India. India became a classical colony with this declaration, but these celebrations were not organized in the regular British settlement of Calcutta. It was organized in Delhi. Not only this, it was in 1911, King George V was crowned in England, but in Delhi, Darbar was organized and celebrations were made. Why do you think so? Because now the Britishers realized that the symbolic importance and historical importance of Delhi. So they want to celebrate the British power with the pomp and the show here in Delhi so that it gets connected to large number of Indians. They want to give a clear message to all the Indians that yes, now the Delhi is controlled by the Britishers. So India is controlled by the Britishers. None other than Queen Victoria from 1877. She became the Empress of India and King George V became the Emperor of India from 1911. So after King George V became the Emperor of India, they want to have a new city called New Delhi, which has to be built in 10 square miles on the hills of Raisina Hills. On these Raisina Hills, they were having two experts architects, Edward Littins and Herbert Baker. Edward Littins and Herbert Baker were called on to discuss about the city. They planned a city where it has a long King's Way before they reach the Viceroy's palace. This King's Way is just like the Rajput's palace, and both sides of the Viceroy's palace, King's Way, we will have the Secretariat buildings. And this was against the Shahjahanabad. They want to build a city which is completely contrast to the Shahjahanabad. They have taken the architectural style from the classical Greece period, that is 5th century BC. And the Viceroy's palace was taken from one of the Buddhist stupas architecture. So like this, ultimately they want to show their greatness. They want to build everything taller than what they have built. They want to build everything taller than Jama Masjid, which is the tallest till that time. So they want to break that record and set a new benchmark, create a new trend, create a new creation. So all these things were initiated. Do you think how many years they have built this one? Yeah, it was nearly 20 years it took for them to build the entire city. They want to build a city which was completely in contrast with Shahjahan's Shahjahanabad. They want to build a city with a wide gap, streets with the street lights running across and dividing each other. They want to have the best water supply than the old city. They want the best old sewage system, which is perfect, drainage system, which allows the water to go freely outside than the old city. They want everything much better than the old city. It took nearly 20 years for them to build the grand new capital. And finally they succeeded in building the grand new capital with the King's Way, the Secretariat buildings across both the sides of the road, and then finally we have the Viceroy's Palace with the structure of Buddhist stupas style, adopting the classical Greece style of 5th century BC, and good water supply, free transport, no busy roads, no crowding of the road, no massages staying in the middle, clear buildings, and green and large gardens were built so that they can get fresh air for them. Like this, the new capital city has come into existence in Delhi. So now we have Delhi's in before, but now we have the largest city, that is New Delhi, which was built newly by the Britishers to show their greatness, to prove that they have recaptured Delhi, and they want to celebrate that, the British authority, with great pomp and show. Now moving on to understand life during the time of partition in Delhi. 1947, India attained its independence. The same time we got India and Pakistan getting partitioned also. So the massive transfer on both the sides happened. So most of the Muslims from India were forced to leave India, while most of the Hindus from Pakistan similarly are forced to leave Pakistan and come to Delhi. So the population swelled in Delhi. The population became overcrowded in Delhi during that period. The culture of the city got to be changed. Why the culture of the city got to be changed? Till now the Delhi has been following the Sufi rules, Sufi culture, Sufi customs, dominated by the Muslims. But now we have many of the Hindus stepping in here, who are foreigners to this land. Most of the Muslims are forced to leave Delhi. It was a fierce rioting took place during that period. The riots are so fierce, people used to get scared themselves to say that they are Muslims. So this kind of tragic situations were in existence. Thousands are killed, and many of them homes are being looted. Thousands are being killed openly. That is called rioting, fierce rioting. Bloodshed happened. Many of them lost their lives. Many of their houses are looted out. Wealth has been taken away. Houses were broken away. You don't stay in the house. They come in, break the doors, come in, pull you outside and kill you, take the wealth from your house and go off. So these kind of things were common everywhere. 2/3 of the Delhi Muslims were forced to migrate. 44,000 families are abandoned and forced to leave to Pakistan. 5 lakh population got added to Delhi. As I mentioned earlier, the population got swelled. So 5 lakh population. Already by 1951 we have 8 lakh population in Delhi. So it was nearly 10 to 13 lakh population now staying in Delhi. So there is no other alternative for them other than staying in the refugee camps, schools, colleges, offices, buildings, whichever are given as refugee camps. There they started to stay. The people used to wander in the Shahjahanabad where they could find an empty house to stay for them. Like this, the people started to struggle in Delhi. The new cities like Lajpat and Tilak Nagar got established where the refugees started to stay here. Shops and stalls are being set up to cater the needs of the new population migrants. Schools and colleges are open. Now, the people those who went from here are agricultural and the rural farmers who migrated from Delhi. From there we got the landlords, the lawyers, the teachers. We got a new set of people from there. The old occupations of the city are no more in existence. We need to find a new alternative for them. So the situations are started to change. So the transformation of the city started to happen. Earlier the Muslim dominated city now had the Hindu dominated city, where most of them are doing their non-traditional occupations. So all these changes happen due to the partition of the country, India and Pakistan. Inside the old city, till now we discussed what happened with Delhi with the partition. Now what happened in old city during that time? The Mughals famed canals. Mughals used to construct canals during in their Shahjahanabad region, where the canals used to bring the drinking water for them, the fresh water, and also they used to satisfy the domestic needs of them. But with the closure of these canals, they have lot of problems. And another important point which we all need to remember is that the population has been constantly growing during that period. Maybe because of the partition, maybe people migrating from there to here. So all these things made the population of the city growing on even for the old Delhi. And during that period, the new alternative given by the Delhi Municipal Corporation is the open drains. Till that time they had the underground drainage system that was blocked. The open drain system has been established. So they had an open drain flow of the system. The rich people started to complain because they are getting bad smell. And what is this overflow from the drains? So all these things irritated the people's life in old Delhi. The Delhi Municipal Corporation is not ready to spend money for the building of the underground drainage system. Well, in contrast to this, in New Delhi, millions of rupees are spent to get a well-planned underground drainage system opposite somewhere in New Delhi. So the old Delhi, the people are suffering like this, lack of proper drinking water because the canals were shut down. Where here in New Delhi, millions of rupees are spent to supply the water for them, get fresh water, no supply or disturbance of the fresh oxygen for them abundantly, and the underground drainage system, well-planned road system, all these things, it is too costly, but it was spent during that time to maintain that, while here they are finding difficult to get even drinking water. Now moving on, the decline of the Huellas. What are the Huellas? The Huellas are the official residences of the Mughal aristocracy. They are the great mansions, a very large building which constructed for the Mughal aristocracy. So what they used to have here? They used to have a beautiful gate. How does an Haveli look? A beautiful gate entered. After you enter here, an open courtyard surrounded by the public rooms for most of the visitors. And once you visit here, you enter into the pavilion, and from pavilion you enter into your rooms, which are very luxurious and used for multiple purposes with very little furniture. The Kamar al-Din Khan's Haveli is an example for this, where we can find many structures here, that is large gate, an open courtyard, then the public rooms, pavilions and all. But as the time passed on, the Mughal Amirs, the Mughal aristocracy could not be able to maintain this for a larger time. The upcoming class of the mercantile, the business class, has taken over some of these Havelis into their control, while many of them are left as decay and unused. They started to get disused. So the Havelis are the grand mansions used by the Mughal aristocracy. They had a large gate opening, beautiful gate, open courtyard, public rooms, pavilions and other inner rooms inside. But when it comes to the colonial bungalows, these are completely different from the Mughal aristocracy's Havelis. They are constructed for the nuclear families to stay here, and they are largely constructed on a single storied pitched roof, where it is around 1 to 2 acres of ground open space, and they had a living room, a dining room and bedrooms, and if possible on the 3 sides veranda, where they used to have the kitchen, they used to have the stables and also many servant quarters along with that is the separate building. In order to run this house, we used to have at least a dozen of servants. The family people used to stay on the veranda to supervise on the tradesmen and the coming people to discuss the issues. So like this, the situation started to change. The Havelis got declined, the bungalows started to get established. First, the Havelis are the official residences of Mughal aristocracy Amirs, which are very large courtyards but had many rooms, not in a single storied building. And these are not able to be maintained because they lost the Mughal control in that places. Amirs also could not maintain it further for a very long time. So the Havelis got declined while the bungalows started to increase. Britishers used to construct bungalows for their officers who used to come with the nuclear families, and these nuclear families used to have a open ground for 1 or 2 acres, and then a living room, a dining room and bedrooms, and as well as the veranda for them on the 3 sides. They used to have servant quarters and kitchens separate, and a dozen of servants used to work with them. Like this, the decline of the Huellas happened, the rise of the bungalows can be seen parallelly the other side. Let us now look at the municipality planning, which begins to think about the Delhi. In 1931, the census has revealed that 90 population is being per acre. Means earlier it was only 3 people who used to stay per acre of land, but now it has gone up to 90 people per acre of land. And in 1888, the Lahore Gate Improvement Scheme, which Robert Clark has proposed, was very advantageous to these old Delhi people. He actually want to bring out all the old Delhi population and shift them to the market square, where a perfect grid pattern of the houses and the shops would be built across in the market square, and the width and the length would be maintained properly here, and Clarkganj will be planned, where the neighborhood will be divided equally the land plots for them, so that they can construct their houses there. The plan was really very good. They want to get the better facilities, good transport, good planning of the city. But the Clarkganj was far from reality, because it did not turn into reality. It was stopped incompletely. And the water and the drainage, water supply and the drainage flow were still up to 1912 the problems in old Delhi. But let us look at the other part of the Delhi. The Delhi Improvement Trust of 1936 was established, where we also have here Daryaganj. Daryaganj is a place where all the wealthy people of Delhi live here. Here they built their houses around the parks, and they had very spacious houses. Within the house itself, they have personal spaces. Earlier, large places were shared by families together, but now the same family members started to share a large area, with every individual having a personal space for them within the house. So like this, the houses got transformed in Delhi. This is how the modern day capital of India got emerged from 1000 years being as a capital. Many Delhis before New Delhi got emerged. In 1911, the Britishers planned to build a grand new capital for British India, with King George V emerging as the Emperor of India. So it took 20 years for them to build. Finally, they succeeded in building a very large construction, taller than Jama Masjid and more beautiful and excellent than Shahjahanabad. And now we have our Indian capital region, that is New Delhi. So this is the story of the Imperial capital city. So colonialism and the city. That's all we have in this lesson. So these are the important points what we have discussed here. How the city got developed, how was its ancient record or the historical record of Delhi, what are the changes that happened, how the Britishers took interest to develop Delhi, though they were not reluctant to do it before, but after 1858 revolt, how they focused their attention towards the development of the Delhi city. So all these are the important points what we have discussed in this lesson.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.